Star Wars Episode 2 is basically as bad as The Phantom Menace.
You got my hopes up for a minute then.
I tried pretty hard to figure out which one of these movies is worse, and I'm having a really hard time figuring that out right now.
Well, you are the same guy who couldn't figure out what The Phantom Menace was about, even though Weird Al, once again, figured it out before the film even came out. That's how you know you failed at life.
But I think if you held a gun up to my head and made me answer, I'd probably say that this one is marginally better.
Not if, I am. And sorry, wrong answer.
The Phantom Menace is bad because it's boring and it doesn't really feel like a real movie.
Boring, not a criticism. Also, what do you mean not feeling like a real movie? What does that even mean?
But technically, once you figure out the story, it is sort of comprehensible. Then you compare this to Attack of the Clones, where structurally it feels like more of a real movie.
Are you going to explain what a real movie is to you? I swear this review is full of empty and vague statements and remarks.
The characters have traits, there's a few cute interactions, but nothing the characters do make any sense, and the story is absolute nonsense.
Because Palps put Jar Jar in the Senator's position so that he could foolishly support the idea of giving him emergency powers? Gee, what nonsense, am I right?
But for what it's worth, this movie is way more entertaining to watch because it is just a hot mess.
Not convinced. Let's see where you take this.
It's probably the worst plot in the entire Star Wars saga.
LOL.
To the point where I could spend this whole review just explaining the story and you would fully understand what I mean. So that's exactly what we're gonna do.
Let's get into another round of Cosmotard not understanding character decisions and motivations.
So the movie starts off and tells us this.
There is unrest in the Galactic Senate. Several thousand solar systems have declared their intentions to leave the Republic.
First you were bored by a blockade cutting off trade to a planet. Now you're bored by the galaxy being split in two. They literally upped the stakes by several thousand planets. And you're bored. I already wrote this guy as a closeted prequel fan who still thinks it's 2012. But this is how you know that he doesn't genuinely hate these movies. He's just a coward who's going off what he thinks is the hip and cool opinion, and never having his own. If you've been around my channel, you know that I fucking hate people like that.
Okay, but joking aside, this is supposed to be the main driving force for the plot. These separatists don't want to be part of the Republic. But why not?
Watch The Phantom Menace, dumbass.
Well, I hope you are prepared to die with that question in your mind because this movie is not interested in telling us. Maybe go read one of the books or something.
And why aren't you doing that like you did to help explain one of The Last Jedi's laziest plot holes? The fact that Cosmotard factored external material to help his case renders his entire point invalid.
Alright, so the rest of the crawl tells us that the Jedi are overwhelmed by the Separatists. But overwhelmed how? The Separatists aren't hurting anybody. There aren't any battle droid attacks at this point. The first thing the Jedi say in this movie is that Dooku and the Separatists aren't violent and they just have different political leanings. So why are the Jedi overwhelmed?
There's a thing called civil unrest that is obviously happening. And one of the easiest inferences you could ever fucking make is the fact that the systems leaving the Republic is too much for the Jedi Order to handle. It doesn't have to be direct warfare to overwhelm the Jedi. Seriously, why is Cosmotard so bad at understanding how political crises work?
Why do we need to create an army? What do you mean by civil unrest?
Is this something the movie really needs to explain? This is like if someone read Green Eggs and Ham and criticized the book for not explaining what green is. It's a fucking color. And imagine if their follow-up question was asking what a color is. Then we explain it's the property possessed by an object of producing different sensations on the eye as a result of the way it reflects or emits light. Then they just look at you like a dumbass and ask what that entire sentence means. That's Cosmotard in relation to Star Wars. The movie giving out an answer you don't understand because you never went to elementary school is not a criticism.
Well, I hope you are prepared to die with these questions in your head because this movie has no interest in telling you why any of these things are happening.
Go read the books, Cosmotard. You're allegedly such a fucking nerd anyways, so what's the problem?
But whatever, that shit doesn't matter. We just need Padme in the city so she can get blown up. So in this movie, Palpatine is trying to kill Padme. But why? Well, it's because Padme is here to vote against creating a military force for the Republic. And I guess Palpatine doesn't really want that because he has his own army and he wants to control it.
The fuck? This guy doesn't understand the story of these movies so much that you manage to give me a headache by how much you don't understand them.
But the assassination attempts just stop about a third of the way through the movie. I guess it's so that Anakin and her can hang out more.
Missing the line where Mace Windu states that Padme will be safer on Naboo. Yeah, sorry that I actually watched the movie Cosmotard.
But then he still has Padme thrown into an arena to be eaten by Pokemon.
He did?
So what's the plan here, buddy? Give me something consistent. Do you want her dead or not? Oh, don't worry, bro. It's all a part of Palpatine's plan.
Not understanding the movie equals an inconsistent plan. Got it. Who does this clown think he's fooling? I'm starting to think that he actually fully understands these movies, but he's just poorly improvising a way to sound like he doesn't, and that's why his reviews are so inaccurate. Like, Cosmotard is a difficult nut to crack, but I'm almost certain that he really likes these movies, but is too much of a coward to go back on what he's saying about them.
Can I just say that I fucking hate this way of writing? Oh, let's make it so our villain can predict the future. So then when anything happens that contradicts information we're given, we can just say, oh, it's fine, he knew it was gonna happen, see? Oh, he killed the Jedi and took over the galaxy, all according to plan.
Doesn't the Emperor literally say that everything is happening as I have foreseen, or something like that in Return of the Jedi? And that seeing the future and stuff happening across the galaxy has been established as a thing for quite a while in this universe? Since the original film, actually. The Emperor having foresight through the Force is not lazy writing, unless you want to call the original trilogy lazy for setting up the rules in the first place.
But if you line it up piece by piece, it's the biggest fucking joke in the whole series. Here is Palpatine's entire timeline.
Let's see how accurate this is.
First, he supports the Trade Federation so he can control space trade. However, the Jedi shut down the Federation, so he starts a new organization of planets that don't like the Republic. At the same time, he's building a secret army, so now he has two armies, an army of clones and an army of robots. Oh, but Padme is going to make things difficult, so he has to kill her. But he messes up and doesn't kill her. But that's okay, he actually wants Anakin to get close to her and fall in love, but then he tries to have her killed anyway, right after that. You're really lucky that none of these Pokemon ate her, because then Anakin would just be a good guy forever, and your plan wouldn't work. So anyway, it doesn't matter. Padme doesn't matter. He unveils both armies at the same time, and he makes them fight each other, secretly. And over the next few years, he orchestrates an entire war between two armies that he secretly funded, so that people will democratically vote for him to be king of space.
Jesus, the obvious end goal is right in front of you, but you're just loosely and incorrectly describing Palpatine's plan without critical thought. There's no way this guy actually misunderstands the politics of the prequels this badly.
So that he can end the war that he started with his two secret armies, and then as king of space, he kills all the Jedi and gets rid of both armies. And then he rules for like 20-ish years, and then Anakin throws him in a hole and he dies.
Wow, you don't even know how long Palps was Emperor. That's actually kind of sad coming from the self-proclaimed Star Wars book reader. This guy keeps on contradicting himself or saying things that don't line up with something else he said in another video. And for the record, I'm talking about other Star Wars videos, in which the standards of Star Wars are the exact same. So don't use the argument that different media can be criticized differently, because Cosmotard was talking about the same franchise then.
There are so many holes in that plan that I don't even have time to break it all down. It would take an entire video.
Translation. I'm too lazy to deconstruct this movie despite claiming to be a huge Star Wars nerd, so I'm not gonna bother.
It would actually be better for the story if you told me he couldn't predict the fucking future, because this plan reads like it's made by someone who can't.
You haven't even deconstructed the plan whatsoever, given you were too lazy to. I don't even have anything to argue against, because Cosmotard's not even trying.
So anyway, Obi-Wan and Anakin go to protect Padme, and I love how the first person to talk in this scene is Jar Jar. I also love how he literally stops, looks at the camera, and smiles, as if to say, "That's right, fuckers, I'm not going anywhere." I'd also like to point out that while we now have more scenes of characters actually having heart-to-heart conversations, they're all awful because they're written in the most unnatural way.
I call bullshit.
For the most part, this movie has some pretty good actors, and they have no way to make this awful dialogue sound natural.
I don't know why I keep dreaming about her. Dreams pass in time. I'd much rather dream about Padme.
What the
Just being
fuck?
around her.
And like any lazy bum, you don't even try to analyze the dialogue and tell us why it's bad. You just play the lines and expect us to cringe. Here's to prequel haters being lazy.
So Padme, the woman who just had an assassination attempt less than a day ago, sleeps in her room alone with giant windows with the blinds open. So obviously under these circumstances, she's basically begging to be assassinated.
You're using her as bait. It was her idea.
And the following scene is probably the funniest shit in the whole movie. So this little probe droid sends in little poison bugs to kill Padme, but our heroes catch it right in the nick of time. And then Obi-Wan fucking jumps out the window. What is his plan? What's his endgame here? And why is he the one who jumped out the window?
Yeah, it's clear that you haven't watched the movie. Obi-Wan isn't being suicidal here. He was taking a risk to be sure, but he was fully expecting Anakin to pick him up.
What took us so long? Oh, you know, Master. I couldn't find a speeder that I really liked.
So yeah, case closed. I don't understand how Obi-Wan, a Jedi, latching onto a droid kills the scene for you. Like, obviously it was a split-second decision. And obviously this droid could take him to the assassin potentially.
Anakin just got done talking about how much he loves Padme and how he's obsessed with her. So I'd almost accept this if Anakin was the one who jumped out the window. Isn't he supposed to be the brash, headstrong apprentice who acts without thinking?
I'm pressing X right there. You wouldn't be satisfied with the prequels whatsoever, no matter how this story was written or presented.
But then the worst part is that later, Obi-Wan gets mad at Anakin for doing the same thing.
So Obi-Wan's a hypocrite. How is this a criticism? It's clear you're not thinking about character consistency here. Because you'd obviously detect Obi-Wan's recklessness and risk-taking throughout the prequel trilogy if you were observant. You're literally just criticizing the story not based on writing quality, but rather a petty in-universe gripe because you're calling Obi-Wan for being a hypocrite. Did it never occur to you that maybe this is the example Obi-Wan is setting to begin with?
He has no right to get upset when Anakin jumps out of the fucking car. He's like, oh, my apprentice is so headstrong and stupid and he acts without thinking. Bro, 2 minutes ago, you jumped out the window to grab a tiny robot. You are lucky to be alive.
Patience. Use the Force. Think.
I also want to ask, how does this kill the movie exactly? Because I guarantee it doesn't stump the movie from either an entertainment or critical thought standpoint.
So anyway, they catch the assassin and they find out that she is a shapeshifter. Now, this is just screenwriting 101, but why is she a shapeshifter? What does this actually bring to the plot of this story?
What does it detract from the story? That's a better question.
Does she at any point shapeshift in this movie to affect the story? Nope.
You know, now that I think about it, George Lucas used this as a small surprise, where we get a hint of Zam Wesell shapeshifting during the chase, but we only get confirmation once she's killed. So if I had to guess what the point was, it's that. It doesn't affect the story that much either way, but it's a cool detail, and that's how I describe it. I also don't understand how this whole shape-shifting thing not being used in a major way is a detriment to the story.
Even when they're looking for her in the bar, this would be a great opportunity to have her turn into something else to avoid being found. But no, she doesn't do it. Why did George make her a shapeshifter?
This is nothing more than a petty gripe. It doesn't affect or detract the story whatsoever. This may actually be the first person I've heard who whined about Zam Wesell and her role in this movie. Like, Jesus Christ, dude, in a 45-minute video talking about the movies, surely there's more important shit to discuss.
The characters bring it up in a way that shows that it might be significant.
And I think she's a changeling. In that case, be extra careful.
But if you go back into this movie and you pretend that she's just a regular person, it doesn't change anything. These are just the basic rules of writing a story.
I also hate how he acts like this part ruins the story. It doesn't. This is a chase sequence. And the bad guy is a changeling. It doesn't detract from the story. Cosmotard is clearly just looking for something to complain about. That ultimately doesn't matter, or at least, doesn't matter as much as the other crap.
Now this scene is funny to me because if you take it and try to figure out exactly what's happening and why it's happening, it becomes hilarious.
You're not exactly someone who's good at understanding the whys and hows of a story, so I'm sweating.
So I'm gonna have everybody try to follow along with me real quick. So Palpatine needs Padme dead.
Out of the way, not dead.
But he doesn't want to do it himself.
It's called delegation of labor, dickhead. It's the same reason any overarching villain doesn't personally commit all their crimes in a story.
So he asks Count Dooku to go kill Padme. But Count Dooku doesn't want to do it himself.
Delegation of labor. Delegation of labor. These are simple concepts, really.
So Count Dooku asks Jango Fett to go kill Padme, but Jango Fett doesn't want to do it himself.
Well, I mean, he did provide the poisonous worms, so that's not even correct.
So he asks his shapeshifter friend to go kill Padme, but the shapeshifter sends a robot to go kill Padme.
I also have a feeling that this idiot has no clue what a conspiracy is. How traceable is this assassination plot if it went through 4 people at the very least to actually happen? Yeah, with that realization and the basic understanding of delegation of labor, it's clear that this moron doesn't understand the story whatsoever, and he's scrambling for something to complain about. There's a thing called henchmen and assassins, buddy.
And if you really want to be an asshole and get even more granular, the droid says, I'll send these little bugs to go kill Padme.
Okay, I'm just gonna skip over this part, because all he does is recap his absolutely stupid understanding of a story utilizing a conspiracy and delegation of labor.
Jango has a chance to go kill Padme, but instead, he goes out of his way to assassinate the person he hired to assassinate Padme.
What, with the guards showing up to escort her elsewhere? Also, what about the fact that Zam Wessel might have spilled the beans when caught? Yeah, I think Jango Fett had bigger priorities at hand.
Secretly genius these prequels are. Many original ideas these movies have.
The prequels, while suffering from flaws, were most definitely Star Wars stories.
Oh, I remember that review. That guy didn't even like the prequels. It almost feels like you're cherry picking. Why not cite someone like me, a hardline prequel fan, and not some guy who is in actuality biased against the prequels?
So Obi-Wan manages to track down the assassin, and he finds him on a planet called Kamino, a planet where they are growing clone soldiers. And what is truly strange to me is that wise Jedi Master Obi-Wan goes to this planet where he literally sees the clones being grown and trained, and he learns that Jango Fett is the man that the clones are based on. Jango Fett lives in this facility. He also learns that Count Dooku hired Jango Fett.
Jango Fett explicitly calls his employer Tyrannus, which is later revealed to be Count Dooku's secret Sith name, so actually incorrect. Obi-Wan doesn't learn that Jango Fett and Dooku are connected explicitly. If you want something that ruins the whole mystery, try Season 6 of the Clone Wars.
And he later finds out that Count Dooku and Jango Fett are evil.
Are evil. Jesus Christ. That's all Star Wars is to you, isn't it? Good guys versus bad guys, with no nuance. I've analysed the themes and symbolism of Star Wars, and I can say that while the movies are pretty black and white, it's not the dumb movies where we're told someone is evil, and we just accept it. There's more to it than that. Like, for example, the contrast between making selfless versus selfish choices and whatnot.
And yet never at any point does he figure out that Dooku and the clones are connected in any way.
With what I've explained about how you misinterpret the movie, of course not.
Obi-Wan Kenobi is given all of the information to figure out that the clones were paid for by the bad guys. And yet it doesn't matter, because I guess he just forgot. If Obi-Wan just remembered that Dooku and the clones are connected, he probably could have stopped the whole war.
The war that started the very next day? Yeah, I don't think so. Tensions were boiling for a long time before then.
He could have saved the galaxy. It's such a small thing that would have changed the entire course of the Star Wars saga. And it's just based around Obi-Wan forgetting a crucial piece of information.
What information? The information you made up that you think is enough to put all the pieces together?
So anyway, that's the A plot, and it's dumb as fuck. But meanwhile, we have the B plot, and it's just as bad.
Shit. Here we go.
because George Lucas does not understand romance. In this movie, we get to watch Padme and Anakin flirt and go on dates, and this wouldn't be too bad if it wasn't so painfully written. Half of the shit they say to each other is pretty cringe, bro.
Here everything is soft.
More out of context clips and expecting the audience to cringe. A fatal flaw if I've ever seen it. And you're not going to convince anyone who loves these movies by pulling that straw man. Why are prequel haters so goddamn lazy?
Now, I wouldn't say that these two characters don't have any chemistry, because it's not really like that at all. I think that they could have made something work if they were better directed and if they had a better script. I mean, look at the scene where Anakin talks about how he just murdered a village full of people. This is how you can tell it's the director's fault, not the actors.
You're gonna try and make Anakin's confession look bad? Heresy, I must say.
I killed them. I killed them all.
Natalie, can we get a reaction to this, please?
They're dead.
Any reaction?
I'm pretty sure Padme's soaking in Anakin's words because it's shocking, learning the full extent of what he did. Yeah, it doesn't sound like bad writing to me.
George, that's your job. Tell her what to do. Help her help you, George.
Okay, I am so done with this video. It's so frustrating that Cosmotard just badly misunderstands the movies, and I want to punch him in the face so hard. You have no idea. And just yell in his face, and counteract all of his utterly moronic assertions. I really do.
So these two really dumb plots converge on Geonosis, where we can have our dumbass final battle. And the end of this movie has now devolved into a dumb CGI action climax, and I personally cannot stand it.
The CGI bad, practical good.
Action is kind of boring if it just shows up for no reason.
Not that you even tried to analyze the action whatsoever.
So then, to end it all, we have a lightsaber fight, and it's probably the worst one in the entire series. I don't even need to explain why. I'm just going to show you guys a clip of the fight, and I want you to know that I did not alter it in any way.
No thanks, dickhead. Skip.
This is the most boring choreography I've ever seen. The only time it's visually impressive is when Yoda enters the battle, and while it is impressive that the Dooku stunt double is fighting with literally nothing and somehow making it look convincing, it doesn't change that this is by far what I consider to be the biggest problem with these movies. This problem is at the core of what I hate about the prequels.
Let's hear it.
And that problem is Yoda.
Heresy.
It absolutely blows my mind that people don't have a bigger problem with Yoda in this trilogy. Because if you ask me, this is blatant character assassination.
Or people just made up bullshit in their heads. Yoda doesn't use a lightsaber is a shitty argument. Because it's just people seeing Yoda without one in the original trilogy and thinking that it's the be-all end-all. Like, no morons, it's a prequel. And Yoda lost his lightsaber before he went into exile. I'm yet to hear a practical argument for why this doesn't work. Yoda is carrying around the Jedi's signature weapon, and there's no reason he wouldn't.
Seeing Yoda with a lightsaber fills me with so much dread, and honestly, I can't explain it. Remember when I praised the scene from Empire where he has this beautiful speech about the Force? Well, all of that understanding and wisdom is gone in these movies.
Also, I want to point out that Yoda is in a very different spot in the prequels than he is in the originals. And again, this is just bullshit. A speech about wisdom or whatever doesn't mean the character never used a lightsaber, the Jedi's signature weapon. This is as much invented bullshit as the argument that Han shooting first makes him more ruthless. It doesn't. That's an imagined change rather than reality.
Yoda never makes a single good decision in these movies, and it's because he always says, "Oh, the dark side is clouding my judgment." Come the fuck on, man. I need real plot elements because this shit isn't working.
I like how you don't even cite a bad decision made. It's just a baseless statement made without anything to back it up.
I should never see Yoda directing troops of soldiers. I should never hear Yoda say these words.
Concentrate all your fire on the nearest starship.
So what's Yoda supposed to do? Let the starships get away in which it'll cause more death and destruction in the following Clone War? I really hate when prequel haters think Yoda or any other Jedi should literally just ignore conflict, instead of trying to mitigate conflict, which is a Jedi's actual job. If you flat out ignore conflict, it's just going to spread given you sat on your fat ass and did nothing. This is so obvious to point out that peace and wisdom doesn't literally mean avoid and ignore all conflict, because obviously that's a dumbass idea. This is a misconception a 5-year-old would have.
Seeing Yoda doing ninja flips is just so upsetting for me, and maybe this is why I like that Luke dies without hitting anybody with a lightsaber. I have my problems with The Last Jedi, but this is how a Jedi should operate in my mind.
Yeah, that's the problem. Luke in The Last Jedi seems to have taken this avoiding conflict thing way too literally. Amongst the billion other myths Rian Johnson propagates against Star Wars, some of which previously existed, and most he just made up out of his ass.
I love that once Luke arrives on the scene, nobody else dies for the rest of the movie except for him. A Jedi should work hardest to find a solution without resorting to violence.
And what do you do when that's not possible? Do you just sit on your ass and meditate? Didn't think so.
In episode 3, when Obi-Wan begs Yoda and says, "Please, Yoda, don't make me kill Anakin," Yoda says, "Sorry, bro. You gotta do what you gotta do."
He obviously doesn't say it like that.
In these movies, Yoda's number one solution is to kill the bad guys.
Great fucking showcase. Yoda and the clones busting up droids.
He never at any point tries to negotiate. He always goes in, guns blazing.
Yeah, try negotiating against droids, or the personification of the devil. See what happens.
This isn't Yoda. This isn't how Jedi are supposed to work. There's zero nuance and zero subtlety.
Not that you would pick up on any nuance or subtlety anyways.
These movies just tell you flat out what is going to happen, and then those events happen. There's nothing to surprise you, and there's nothing to enjoy.
You got any examples of this?
Along the way, you're gonna see classic characters acting stupid, acting out of character.
Yeah, well, you failed to convince anyone that Obi-Wan or Yoda acts stupid or out of character. It doesn't help that you misexplain the movies and what actually happened in them, or what characters actually say. Okay, you guys might think I'm going after an easy target, and other people have already done their piece on Cosmotard here, but as I said in other videos, this is an encouragement for prequel haters to try harder, because this is all what we've come to expect. This is the best the prequel haters come up with, and it's pathetic.
But no, remember, these are the movies that are better than the new movies. Remember, guys, these movies understand Star Wars. The Last Jedi isn't a real Star Wars movie, but this one is. This one gets to be a real Star Wars movie. And guess what, guys? We still have one more to go.
Oh yeah, I forgot that Cosmotard is actually going to find some way to shit on episode 3.
3 out of 10, I hate that you all made me do this.